Good morning. Peace and blessing. My name is Brother Bey. I'm the founder and the CEO of an organization known as Foxo. Foxo is an acronym for the Fraternal Order of Ex-Offenders. Foxo is a cadre of ex-offenders who have empiricism. Empiricism is one of the research methodologies that scholars use to gather information. We write programs through national training. We have a DVD. We have a 12-step crime prevention model, have a piece called P.E.A.C.E, which is copyrighted. P stands for proper education, always correct error. I would take this time just to give you a synopsis of 5 models that we have written. We believe that all behaviors learn behavior. People learn what they live, and eventually they may live what they learn. They have the power of choice, but they're powerless over the consequences of the choices that they make. Our first model is called the psychology and sociology of criminality. Criminality is the unaccepted, chronic, deviant behavior that causes death, injury, and destruction in our society. We look at crime, drugs, and violence as a disease. It does the same thing any other disease may cause: death, injury, and destruction. Sociology is the process that people go through and may become what they do. As some of us understand, children be what they see. The reason we start off with psychology, because thinking is the precursor of all behavior. And a lot of time in the human service industry, they say, well, it's the values, it's the environment, it's the culture. But we can never take thinking out of the equation. Our second model talks about the psychology and sociology of penology. People wonder why, when people go to prison, some cases, nothing changed. Well, prison is the micro of society, which is the macro. The same sociological ills that you have in a larger society, those sociological ills are very prevalent in our society. People take themselves wherever they go. A very interesting one is called the psychology and sociology that highlights the core relationship between adult criminality and juvenile delinquency. A lot of times society point fingers at our juveniles who are off the hook, who have some behavioral problems, but they're not the progenitor creative of those problems. Our premise is, once again, that all behavior is learned behavior. And when you look at people in the adult system, I would say 85% or more of that population evolved from the juvenile justice system. And in most cases, the first time someone got apprehended, adjudicated, and convicted, that was not the first time that they operate outside society's norms, more ways, and folk ways. So I believe if we're going to change the systemic, endemic, epidemic, pandemic methodologies in our society, we have to be more creative, comprehensive, and holistic, and stop doing what most policies and programming practices do. They genderize, politicalize, and localize issues. We have to be more comprehensive. The last one, you hear everybody talk about reentry, and I'm going to use this analogy. Gangs are territorial. Bloods, Crip, Piru, BGF. The criminal justice system is territorial. When you understand reentry, the model is you go behind the fence, prepare a person for reintegration back in our society. You prepare a person for reentry back in our society. There's a distinction between reentry and reintegration. So one of the things that we say, those of us who understand the criminal justice system from an empirical perspective, I would say at least 90% of the population that is under the auspices of the criminal justice system is not in a facility. However, they are institutionalized. They are in our communities on parole, probation, being sought on an outstanding warrant or waiting to go to court. So what's the moral of the story? We have to change our methodologies. We have to change the paradigms, because the paradigms are not working. And that's not to indict, but to excite and ignite those who are involved at every capacity of the criminal justice system. We need to understand that the criminal justice system It's an adversary system. Those of you who have PhDs or JDs, et cetera, you understand the intricacies of the system that most community folks do not understand. So we have created a model that talks about the psychology and sociology of no entry, because if we got 90 to 95% of that population with that kind of mentality that becomes their reality, and the finality, we need to meet people prior as proactive prevention. Intervention is not working. When you look at those who are in the juvenile justice system, we had a program called Boys and Men in the School System. And initially I would ask young men, Bloods, Crip, Pirate, Rule, BGF, where is success? And their answer categorically and unequivocally was, in the streets. And the gist of the Boys and Men program was to show them how to make that transition from malehood, boyhood, manhood, creatorhood. And when we say creatorhood, we're not saying that you're the God of the universe. What we're simply saying is malehood is a biological creature that is dependent, that is not self-sufficient. They reach a certain age, whether it's 3, 4, 5, you say soda, they say soda, but do they have the intellectual wherewithal to understand that the soda may have acid in it? What we're saying that we have to begin to train a child in the way that he or she may go, and hopefully it's all about relationships. They may not deviate. We as a society believe, no pun intended, to law enforcement, courts, and corrections. Michelle Alexandria talk about race to incarceration, but they don't market the information that she got and understand those dynamics came from an ex-offender such as myself. I have 56 years experience dealing with the criminal justice system in every capacity, and I'm not saying that to be braggadocious. I have lived this life, and that is one of the reasons why we do what we do. If we never get a dime, because the work that I do is therapeutic for me and our membership. Yesterday, from a Christian perspective, we were Saul, but today we're Paul by God's grace and mercy. We're not intimidated nor impressed with those young folks who are doing what we used to do. And too often we make allegations without confirmation. We think that because children act a certain way, that their parents sanction it. My own personal experience. First time that I went to Juvie Hall, there was a master called Master McDermott. I did not have a petition. My mother woke me up one day and said, "You're not going to school, you're going to court." And I would ask her why. You didn't see me do nothing. I was grown mentally, you understand me, but I was not grown spiritually, grown up. I didn't know that she didn't have to see me. She had the ability to discern that I was not doing the right thing for the right reason. I grew up in the church, sung on the choir, played the drums. So when she took me to Master Derman, he said, "Ma'am, this was in 59 or 60. There's nothing that I can do with him. I cannot lock him up as you suggest because he doesn't have a petition." Now, Godfather was not out in 59 or 1960. My mother said, "You either lock him up or you lock me up." I thought she was mean. I wore the mask. But when he gave me 6 to 8 months, it bought Maryland, Cheltenham, paperwork say, reformatory school for colored boys. And based on that, what I'm trying to say in closing, the criminal justice system had criminogenic effects. I learned more about crime, drugs, and violence in those facilities. And when you look and do the research, I would say 85% or more of the population in the adult system evolved by the juvenile system in closing. The data says within 2 to 3 years when the population is released, they are rearrested. It didn't take me or 85% of the other folks that I know 2 to 3 years to commit another crime. It took us 2 to 3 years via law enforcement to catch us, to apprehend us, to adjudicate us, and convict us. Crime is in the institution. Go back and do the research of what had transpired in the Baltimore City Detention Center. I was in the penitentiary in 1964. What went on, 4, 5 months ago was there all the time. If my time is up, thank you, and always remember, peace, proper education, always correct error. Our telephone number is 410-262-4456. We have a website, Foxo.us. My email address is thinkingisdestiny@yahoo.com. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I'm not saying that I have all the answers because I haven't heard all the questions, but what I am saying that people like me are a model. Last week we was at Congressional Black Caucus. Prior to that, I met with Eugene Nieberg, who is the director of the Department of Justice, Faith-Based and Community Partnerships. We're trying to institutionalize the work that we do, and I got a lot of support from scholars around the country, not just Johns Hopkins, who look at the work we do and see the innovative, creative, and unconventional methodologies. Close in, when you look at the 12-step model, the person who has the most effect on someone in AA or NA is the person who have experience in paroxysm, because we understand. So we say the therapeutic value of an ex-offender helping an ex-offender is unparalleled. Parallel lines will never meet. Anything anybody's doing for that population will never affect them to the level that we can, because we see through that population they cellophane in a window pane. Thank you for allowing me to share.